Kadosh, Boker Or, Masechet Zevachim, Daf Yomi, Daf Nuntet Amud Aleph 59a1. Says the Gemara. We were talking about right now the Mizbach Ha'olah, right? Because we just said over here, Rav Shavi Amar Hamani Lei, the Tanya says Mintosh et Mizbach Ha'olah. So where's going to be Mizbach? So where would it be exactly the Kior? So he said the Kior is going to be Ben Ulam la Mizbeach, between the Ulam and the Mizbeach, Mashuch Kim'ak Lapedorom, but a little bit towards the south. Okay, so it's picture number one, correct on the bottom? A little bit towards the south. Okay? Nuntet, Nuntet Amud Aleph. Okay? So Maika Savar. So says the Gemara, what does he hold? Yeah, what is he holding? Ika Savar Kule Mizbeach Badarom Kai. If you're going to tell me that the entire Mizbeach is going to be in the Darom, is going to be in the south, Nukme Mikotel Hechal V'Ladarom. So why don't you place a kior, right, by the kotel of the Hechal to the south, right? Ben ulam la mizbeach, between the ulam and the mizbeach. Ve'i nami kasav. Now if you're going to tell me kedushat Hechal v'ulam is the same, you remember we said that the Hechal was 10 amot entrance, and the ulam was 20. Double, right? So he says, if you're going to tell me now it's the same thing, which means that it's going to be the double, so he comes and he says, right, nukme kotel ulam v'ledarom, ben ulam and mizbeach. So why don't we just come and say from the beginning of the kotel of the ulam and southward, right? Well, you're going to have between the ulam and the mizbeach. So therefore, since the ulam and the Hechal have the same kedusha, because it's kedushat ol moed, so therefore it's v'natatat tekio ben oel moed uven mizbeach. It doesn't have to be dafka by the Hechal. It could also be by the ulam. Okay? So he comes and he says, Inami kasavar, unless you're going to tell me, right, chetzio batzafon v'chetzio badarom. That again, half of the Mizbeach is in the north, half of the Mizbeach is in the south, right, which is in the middle. So he says, Nukme, then you're going to place the Kotel Hechal ladarom, right, at the beginning of the Kotel Hechal to the south, Ben Ha'olam leMizbeach, between the Olam and the Mizbeach. V'ina mikasavar, now if you're going to tell me Kedushat Olam ve'Hechal is the same, Nukme mikotel Olam ladarom, Ben Olam leMizbeach, right, because within the 16 Amot, you got 10 Amot, which are going to be okay. And then you have another 6 Amot by the Kotel. Okay, look in the picture. You've got a picture. Okay, it's here it says hey, but I don't know how it is in English. Maybe it's 5, or maybe they're doing A B C D E F, A B C D E. Picture E. You guys have pictures or not? Yeah.
Yeah, we have the diagram.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah. Yeah. So you've got it in picture hey.
The kior at the bottom and A.
Yeah, you see the kior there. So the kior is going to be within the 6, which is still by the mizbeach. Okay, but it's going to be right below the petach of the Hechal, the petach of the ulam. Sorry. Look at the differences between the pictures. In the first picture, right? So look, let's say take picture B, which is Tarshim Bet, correct? So do you realize that the entire mizbeach is in the darom? You see it? So the mizbeach is towards the south, right? You remember the video? For him, you have to speak about videos. For him, you have to speak about. You remember the video that they came and they started moving the mizbeach all the way to the left, right in the south. That's that picture. So you've got the mizbeach is already in the south, and therefore you've got that even though it's going to be the top part of the mizbeach is opposite the Hechal, right? That's why you see the top part of the mizbeach goes right in between the 5 and the 5, which is 10. So in between then, but then the kior is going to be a little bit further south. Now you have the next one.
There's 2 kiorim.
Where's 2 kiorim?
Yeah, they put confusing. They put in this diagram B. There's 2 kiorim.
Bemet?
Yeah.
Why do they keep on doing that?
See, they put 2 kiorim. Confusing.
So I was going to ask you why here they said 2 kio and the rest of them it's 1 kio.
Okay, just pretend there's 1. I don't know why there's 2 of them.
Okay.
On the left side. Between down.
Left or down?
Yes. According to everybody, it's the left of the altar. The only question, and according to everybody, it's a little bit towards the south. The question though is, where exactly? Look at the next picture. The next picture, which is going to be C, or Tarshim Gimel, right?
There's 2 different opinions of kior. That's what he's saying. It's like one is supposed to be to the north and one is supposed to be to the south.
Interesting, but we only learned for the south. We said mashu klape darom.
They say that if you says the second verse that the kior did not interpose between the altar and the entrance of the Hechal. That's one would have expected the kior to be between the altar and close part of the front of the Hechal, either to the south or to the north. So they're showing it like
Okay, as if it's to the north. Okay, I don't know. For an argument I hear, it only says the darom, but okay, fine. Fine. Tarshim Gimel. Look at the C. The C there you have that the Mizbeach is half-half. You remember this was the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda. Remember? Not Rabbi Yehuda, but rather Rabbi Yehuda, which means half-half, meaning that Mizbeach, right, is part in the Darom and part in the Tzafon. So he comes and he says, right, if it's going to be half-half. כן.
אז מה, הם לא ראו? מה זה דעתו? מה, הם לא ראו איך המזבח היה, איפה הוא היה, איך המידה, איך...
קודם כל, התנאים זה גם, אפילו תנאים זה היה בסוף בית שני. יכול להיות שהרבה תנאים היו אחרי החורבן, או הם היו אחרי החורבן. Okay? So now he comes and he says this. He says, right, if it's going to be, right, like this shita, which is basically going to be in the middle, again, you're still going downwards, right, that's where it shaded the kior, right? Tarshim Dalid is that the Mizbeach was much more further up, right? And then again, you still have part of it, right? And the last one was the Mamash, the Mizbeach was almost, like and then the kior is going to be towards the bottom of that. So it all depends where it is. Do you say that the kior has to be in the entrance of the ulam, or it could be even just below the entrance of the ulam? That's the last picture that we just did now. Okay, that it's even going to be below the entrance of the ulam. And again, we're going that the ulam and the hechal have the same kedusha. The hechal only has 10 amot of a distance of a wall, like of a door, and the ulam is double that. Okay. Fine. The ulam is no. The Hechal is the Hechal. And then in front of the Hechal, you have the Ulam. Yes. Basically like this. When I come in, what's an Ulam? An Ulam is...
like this.
Exactly. So when I come in first, I first get the Ulam. The Ulam has a 20 amot wall. No, first is the Ulam.
Here. You have over here, you get the Hechal.
But you're coming from the outside.
Okay.
When you're coming from the outside, the first thing that you see is a 20 amot door, which is the Ulam. If you would walk into the ulam, it's not a big place. You look to the right, you've got like an opening. You've got to the left, you've got an opening. And now right in front of you, you have the Hechal. And the Hechal is only a 10 amot door. So it's a much smaller door. It's half the size. Okay. And then when you get into the Hechal, that's when you're going to get, whether it's the Mizbeach HaPnimi. You understand?
Okay.
You understand? Okay. Next, says the Gemara, Elala, but rather, Mishum de Kasavar, right? Kula Mizbeach Batzafon. He holds that the entire Mizbeach is in the north, right? And since he holds the entire Mizbeach is in the north, right? That's why he's coming and he's saying this halacha. Okay, so that's why the kior really bemet is mamash opposite the ulam and the echad.
Which diagram are you talking about?
6. For me, it's for me it's vav. For you, I guess it's gonna be f. It could be. It's where you have the entire Mizbeach in the north, and then the Kior Bidyuk in the middle of the Ulam and the Hechal.
This one?
No, not that one. I turned the page already. That one, the top one. Okay? Next, why don't we put it in between the Mizbeach and the Hechal in the north? So answers the Gemara, Kasavar Kedushat Hechal v'Ulam Chada. Again, he obviously holds that it's the same Kedusha. So therefore, even if it's going to be between the Kotel of the Hechal and the north, that's still between the Ulam and the Mizbeach. Okay? So it means basically it was going to be like a Chatzitza. So for the Mizbeach, it's not going to be, meaning if the Kior is there, and the Kior is like a Chatzitza, it's a Pasek, so therefore the Mizbeach is not opposite that, so then you have a problem. Okay? So why don't we just say that from the kotel of the ulam and north, right, is going to be the place between the mizbeach. So he says, Amarkar, the pasuk says safona. When it says safona, shiet safon panui mikelim, meaning that you cannot put the kior there because the kior is a keli. So when I say tzafona, you could have just said put it tzafon. Why does it tzafona? So tzafona means that it has to be panui from kelim, that there's not going to be any kelim. So he says, Man Tana de Paligale de Rabbi Yosef Galilei. Who's the Tana that argues on Rabbi Yosef Galilei? And he holds that the entire Mizbeach is in the south. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov he. So that was the original video that we showed you at the beginning. You remember we said, Rabbi Yosef Galilei holds that the entire thing is in the north. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov holds the entire thing is in the south. And Rabbi Yehuda says it's Hatzi. Yeah? Half. Okay? Okay. So says the Gemara, right? He says Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov he says Safona shet safun panu mikilim afilu mizbeach. What does that mean? That even the north cannot be in the mizbeach cannot be in the north, because when it says Safona, it has to be panui from the kelim. The mizbeach is also the keli. So ima mizbeach ze gam kemo keli, אז לא יכול להיות שהמזבח זה בצפון. חייב להיות שכל המזבח בדרום. וזה שיטת רבי אליעזר בן יעקב. אמר רב says, מזבח שנפגם, כל הקודשים שנשחטו שם, פסולים. Any type, when the mizbech is going to be nifgam, there's a pgam in it, all the kodashim that they did shechita by it is going to be pasul. Even if immediately they came and they fixed the mizbech, right? So he says, why? He says, mikra haya biadenu. We learned it from a pasuk, but we forgot it. We have a pasuk, we just forgot it. So kisalik Rav Kahana. So when Rav Kahana went from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, Ashkechel b'Shimon Rebbe, the Kama Mishum B'Shimon Rebbe Yosef that he said the name of Rebbe Yosef, minayin lemizbeach shenifkam. How do you know that if you have a mizbeach shenifkam that all the kochim that were done shechita is pasul? So he says shneimar, but it says a pasuk v'zevachta alav. Yeah, he says v'zevachta alav et olotecha v'et shelamecha v'chi alav ata zoveach. He says, what does that mean now? Right? V'zevachta alav et olotecha v'et shelamecha. He says v'chi alav ata zoveach. Ela keshu shalem velo keshu chaser. We're talking about when it's shalem and not chaser. Amar, he says, Hainu krad ishtamit le'lerav. So that's the pasuk, which is going to be, right, is we're going to come and we're going to say that it's going to be forgotten from Rav. Meaning this pasuk, v'zavachta alav et olotecha v'et shelamecha, alav ata zoveach. Nowhere else. So therefore he comes and he says, so that's the pshat alav, is biglal. It's because of. So it's talui b'mizbeach. So if the mizbeach was pagum, so now everything becomes pasul. That they learn from this pasuk. So now he comes and he says, right? What's the word, the expression? Eureka! Right? What does that mean? I found the pasuk. This was the pasuk that he forgot. Okay? Next, Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says, Echad ze ve'echad ze, psulin. Doesn't matter whether they did the shechita on the kodshim during the time of the pigima, or it was even after you fixed it. It's still going to be pasul. Right? Why? Because anything which was at the beginning fitting for the mizbeach and then was pushed off, is pushed off forever. Right? You remember kasher nidche? Kasher avati, bekitzur. What does that mean? Once it's pushed off, kaddish, it's gone. Okay, so it's pasul. So b'may plige, what's the machloka between them? Rav Savar, what Rav holds, ba'alei chayim and nidchim, he says, animals are never pushed off. He says, why? Because afterwards you could do it, it's never pushed off. Rabbi Yochanan holds that ba'alei chayim are nidchim. They are pushed off. So Maitvates, we're going to ask a question on Rav. What happens if they didn't have a mizbeach and now you built a mizbeach? Everything's going to be pushed off. So he says, why? Because it's dachui. So you see from here that they are going to be dachui, right? So this is the question: how could Rav come and say ba'alei chayim enam nidchim? Hem ken nidchim. Po yishich habraita. Hem nidchim legamre. Gamarnu. Kaddish. Yeah. So he says nivna. He says, if you're going to tell me that I have to build it, so means it's already pushed off. It was never there. Here you have to actually build the mizbeach. Here we're talking about the mizbeach was already there. Just it had a defect, so you have to fix it, but nothing else. Right? Nothing else that happened.
Or something, or mikveh, you find something's wrong. What happened with all you did before? It's the same, no?
100%. 100%. The only difference, though, is that as an animal pushed off or not. A human being, I put him back to his regular chazakah, that it didn't help, so he's still tameh. So therefore the mikveh doesn't help him. Or, for example, they didn't, whatever the other case is. You understand? In that case, yes. The question here, though, is, do I say that the animal was pushed off, or do I say, no, the animal could still come to the mizbeach? So that's a machloket. Okay? So says the Gemara, Ela ad shelo neheras hamizbeach. We're talking that it wasn't neheras. So he says, neheras? Hayizakilahu. So what do you mean neheras now? right? He says the animals are going to become all old and everything. They're going to become pasul. So he says, Elad shelo nifgam mizbeach, and then nifgam mizbeach. Sorry, no. It didn't become a defect. Because when you say ne'eras means that it was destroyed. What are you talking about exactly? You understand? Like, that was already from the first bite rishon, right? So from the first bite rishon, and then it was destroyed, and now it's only going to get back and bite sheni. You have 70 years. Those animals for sure are already going to be, they're old geezers. You can't bring them to the mizbeach. So he says, "Velav tirutze kamatarza." He says, "Ve'eman nishchatu." Why don't we just say, right, that they done shechita? V'amar Rav Gidal Amar Rav, mizbeach shenekar maktirin ketor b'mkomo. Do you know that if you right now take the mizbeach hapnimi and it was taken somewhere else, you still do the ketoret on the place where the mizbeach was? Meaning, even though now the mizbeach is not there anymore, right? Because they took away the mizbeach hapnimi, but you still do the ketoret. You know where? In the place where it was. That's where you do the ketoret. Kedamar Rava, just like Rava says, Modeh ayar Rabbi Yehuda bedamim. Rabbi Yehuda would be modeh by damim, by the blood, right? The what? That he holds that the entire ritzpah of the azara is kiddushat mizbeach, and therefore, right? It's not only just to do with aktarat emurim, it's to do with everything. So he says, Achanami, so to hear Rav bedamim, that it's going to be also admitting in the bloods. So he says, Might of Yehuda, what is the shita of Rabbi Yehuda exactly? So he says like this. He says, Bayomahu kidash hamelech et tocha chatzer. On that day, Shlomo Melech came and he consecrated the inside the Chatzer. Ki mizbach hanechoshet asher lifnei Hashem katul me'achil, it was too small. Dvarim kichtavam, what does that mean? You have to explain it. Mamash kipshuto. That means Shlomo Melech came and he sanctified the entire ritzpah of the Azara, that it should be like a mizbeach, in order that you could bring korbanot there. Because the mizbeach that Shlomo built, Haya Yuter Midai Katan.
Moshe, no?
Which one?
Moshe built.
No, Shlomo. Where do you have Moshe?
שלמה עשה על החצר, אבל משה, בגלל שמשה...
לא, תסתכל, מפני שהמזבח שבנה שלמה קטן היה מדי להכיל את אמוני כל הגדולים
מה
שקוראים לו.
זה בסוגריים שעשה משה?
לא, אתה צריך לדלג על זה, בגלל זה אני לא אמרתי את זה. תזכור, הסוגריים האלה, right, you never read the round brackets, אתה רק עושה את המרובע, ובגלל זה כתוב, הנחושת אשר לפני השם. כן? סליחה, בגלל שאני...
סופרים כאילו?
כן. בגלל זה אני אפילו לא קורא את זה, אז אפילו לא שמתי לב בכלל מה שאתה, כאילו, איפה אתה מעשה משה. Fine. Right, דברי רבי יהודה. These are the words of רבי יהודה. Right? So he comes now and he says like this. He says, right, אמר לו רבי יוסי, it says רבי יוסי, right, נ"ט עמוד ב', 59b. והלא כבר נאמר, it was already stated, 1,000 עולות יעלה שלמה על המזבח, ההוא, that Shlomo Melech will come and he will bring up 1,000 olot on the mizbeach, right? ואילו בבית עולמים, but if it's brought down by the mizbeach הגדול, הוא אומר, ויזבח שלמה את זבח השלמים של זבח להשם, right? בקר 22,000, 22,000, שאתה מגיע לחשבון עולות ומניין אמות, and when you're talking about how many חשבונות and everything of the אמות and the אמות, right? שזה גדול מזה. It comes out the יחסי that the mizbeach that Shlomo made was much bigger, right? מזבח הנכושת, because according to the olot. So therefore, since it was much, you needed that space. Ella, but rather, Umau Katon Mechir, what does it mean it's so small? It says, Kadam Melech Havero, Ploni Nanasu, Pasul Avoda. Right? What does that mean? When somebody comes and he says he's an anas, you know what an anas is?
גמד.
Yeah. What's a gamad?
כמו גזר
A
גמדים.
dwarf. A dwarf. You know what a dwarf is? Enano. Right?
באנגלית איך אתה אומר?
I think in English also said nano. Nano, I think it is, no? A dwarf is in English. A midget. Yeah, a midget, a dwarf. Yeah. So he says it's going to be pasul avodah. Rabbi Yehuda, and according to Shtat Rabbi Yehuda, Shapir Kama Rabbi Yosef, he says it's true what Rabbi Yosef says. Meaning, according to the cheshbon of Rabbi Yosef, right, it comes out that it was even big, right? It was fine, right? So you didn't have to start sanctifying the entire floor. So he says, you're right. Rabbi Yehuda goes according to his reasoning, right? That he comes and he says, the Amar Mizbeach Shasa Moshe Gadolaya was very, very big. The Tanya 500 orech ו500 rochav. It was 5 by 5, right? Devarim, right? Kichtavan, right? The Devarim is exactly the way that it's written. Divrei Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Ne'emar kan Ravua, it says Ravua, and then Lala Ravua. Just like over there, Mensaito Yamod, used to do it from the middle, right? Which means that the rochav and everything was from the middle. Right, so he comes and he says from the gag of the mizbeach. So he comes and he says, so it comes out that it was even bigger. Afkan memtzeito moded. She says, where are you counting from? You go from the middle of the mizbeach and you go outwards. But if you're counting from the middle of the mizbeach and go outwards, what are you missing, doctor? Minimum 2 amot square. Minimum, correct? 3 amot square, actually, probably. Huh? Because you don't have the yisod, you don't have the masovev, and you don't have the keren. You're going in the middle of the top. You go to the top, and you're doing the middle of the from the top to the sides. So that's why. So he says, "Mim seito yamudet." Vehata menalan, and over there, how do we know this? Dichtiv, because it says in the pasuk ve'ariel. Ariel is basically the mizbeach, the place of the mizbeach. That's Ariel, right? A hint or whatever it is because it's like the Ari. The fire was on it like a line, right? So the Ariel is 12. Orech b-12 rochav, ravua, al arbat karnotav. You have a picture there. It's 12 by 12. Everyone sees it on the picture on the bottom. V'tanya, we learned to the right of Ariel 12 lechol ruach. So it comes out that it's going to be 24 amot, 24 amot. So he says, oh, ela 12 al 12, maybe it's 12 by 12. So Kishu Omer, when he says al arbat reva'av, melamed shebeemtza umuded. So obviously it's talking about that it's 12 amot on the 4 sides. So that's why it's 12 by 12 on each side. And then it's 24 by 24. Okay? Rabbi Yosef, but according to Rabbi Yosef, he gamar gezerah shava. When did he learn the gezerah shava of ravua? Begovhadu degamin. Only to do with the height. The Tanya, we learned to the Braita, it says, v'shalosh amot komato, devarim kichtavan, div Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef Omer, Rabbi Yosef said, no, he says ravua minemalan ravua, just like over there, govo pishnai morko. So 2 years, it's talking about pishnai morko. So Amar le Rabbi Yehuda, says Rabbi Yehuda, ולא כבר נאמר, but it says, אורך החצר 100 וקומה 5 אמות, אפשר כהן יהיה עומד על גבי המזבח ועבודה בידו וכל העומדים אותו מבחוץ. He says, I don't understand you. He says, are you going to tell me now that the Kohen is on top of the mizbeach and he's got the avodah and everybody could see him? There's no sniut. Imagine right now, he's up there and everybody could see him because he's on top of a high riser. So everybody could see him up there. That's not sniut. Sniut has to be something which is internal, right? It has to be something internal. So he comes and he says, yeah, ma mishkan, right? Sorry, 1 second, I just skipped it. Right, וכל העם רואים אותו מבחוץ, so אמר לו רבי יוסף, says to יוסף, הלא כבר נאמר, it says, ותקלה חצר ומסע פתח ישר החצר, אשר למשכן במזבח סביב. מה משכן 10 אמות, just like the משכן is going to be 10 אמות, so too, the מזבח is going to be 10 אמות, right? ואומר, and it also says, קלעים 15, right? עמל הכתף, that it's going to be 15 אמות אל הכתף, right? So obviously that's what we're talking about, that it's going to be the 15 amot, and then the Gemara is going to say matzah 5 amot. So obviously it's talking about from the sfat mizbeach ve'lemala, which means that the klaim were going right upwards. So according to him, the klaim would mastir the kohen from doing the avodah on the mizbeach. I mean, it would cover him. The curtains were there for tzniut that people cannot see him from the outside. Okay, that's what's actually brought down in the Gemara.